Taking a pause on making content isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I want to offer a perspective on that. The channel that I run, I only speak about things that I know to a level that I've experienced them. I've seen the results. I've put a lot of time and effort and research into understanding that subject. And then I feel it's wise to open your mouth, to speak to a wider audience, even just to one person. Stick to generally what you know. Keep learning, of course, bring on new things, but stick to what you know. And as I've gone down this path that you might see as a journey to understand legacy, how that's transferred, how we build meaning in our lives, how do you maintain that as well afterwards, or do things like build a better future for your kids? After spending about 20 years in the field as here comes a big word, a behavioral economist, for a lot of people, I would explain that as things work better when there's better behavior. And I was always interested in things working better for all of us. And I found that I could do great in the lab. I could study people's behavior from a distance. Then I found how lacking I was in my own life, and I needed to improve my own behaviors. Then, when I really started doing well with that, I started helping other individuals, then communities, now companies, and soon it'll be family offices or bigger, let's say, empire size legacies. You might think that's a kind of like size that you could put to a legacy, like how big is your legacy? But I found that to be a tougher equation than you might think is simple. And here's a few thoughts on that. The size of your legacy is usually akin to like the size of your responsibility or your willingness to take on responsibility. If you want to go affect a ton of people in your life, you have to take on a lot of responsibility. If you want to affect one person, that's less responsibility. I hope you understand what I'm laying out here. Then the other side of this is the quality or the depth of that legacy. And an example of that is let's imagine your kids or somebody that's close to you. Your depth of legacy would be how well did I train that person or enable that person in a positive way or build them up to be able to handle moments in a way that I truly believe it, that is very valuable to me and to everybody around me. That's beautiful. And so, yeah, we have this wonderful earth, for example, that we could take care of it. We can all do our part, and doing that part to a certain level of quality is a measure of our legacy, I found. Dr. King, Martin Luther King, talked about this in the sense of if it's not your destiny to be the big timber on the hill, be the best little shrub in the valley that you can. If your destiny is to sweep streets, then sweep streets like Michelangelo painted cathedrals. Do that to a level of depth and responsibility and balance with those two. Do that to a level of depth that makes you feel like you really went all out for what you were living for, what you were deeply trying to do in your life. And if this is a founder listening to this, again, that's the confidence in how you do what you do that inspires people to get work done, that helps you bring healthy partners and attract the right people, capital, resources, whatever. Making the whole thing happen with responsibility and discipline is the other side. But the depth of that is also something that's really required. And whatever it is, if it's simple stuff like moving rocks around, and I was the best guy at doing that with my bobcat or excavator, or I was the best guy at moving whole fleets of ships and hardware and containers, and I ran a big logistics and shipping company all over the world. Whatever. I made the best cars and launched rockets to the moon. Fine. That's great too. If people are really drawn to that kind of stuff, they'll be drawn to it. And that's another thing for people handing off a legacy to, let's say, an heir. I recently have worked with some people who are, let's say, poor, some people who are ultra wealthy, some people who are even in royalty, or let's say families that are running countries. And when you're handing off your legacy to somebody else, just make sure that they're deeply passionate about that. Without a sense of commitment, there's no inheritance. Is what I've heard some very successful patrons or fathers or mothers that are controlling an estate talk about. On the other side, for people who are inheriting a legacy of becoming an electrician like their dad, or taking over the family business, or trying to step up and run a country like your father or uncle or whoever is, I would just, I would say, try to set the expectations with yourself and everybody around you. And we can learn a lot about that from the boy who cried wolf. Try to set the expectations around you in a way where you feel you're actually doing what you love doing to a level that does respect the expectations and commitments you've set around other people. That things like your integrity really do matter. That's a very, very, very important part of what we're talking about here, because as much as the person handing it off to you might love for you to succeed, your father, mother, uncle, trustee, friend, whatever kind of meaningful thing you might be training each other to do. And this is all very deeply rooted in the idea of copying and carrying on and maintaining what we've built up here as a human race. Whatever that is, the binding agent across the two is integrity, that we're delivering on the expectations that we set, and that we're able to manage that process responsibly, which means having to work with people, which means negotiating, which means all these different skills, which we don't each as individuals a lot of times have all of those. So we then have to trust other people in order to do that. And so to manage more and more and more takes more trust and more integrity across the board. Now, spiritual disciplines and those kinds of things, things that are a part of my life, really help with a lot of the peace and the recovery as well, the piece of making the decision and trying to do something new, as well as the recovery from something that didn't go for example, very well as you might have expected it to. And so while we're managing expectations and maintaining integrity, there's also realignment moments. Okay, so we've laid out a number of things here, and they all balance, I think, really well with each other. I would just love it if one you share this with people who are maybe struggling with moments that their family made it too easy for them, or they feel lost because it's too hard, or they're trying to do better, or they're just trying to recover. Whatever the case is, those folks might benefit from this kind of stuff. And then on the other end, let's think about, all right, your thing that you're doing, whatever that is. One, I'd love to talk through what that is for you in your life and be a sounding board and map something out and get it done. That's a lot of the work that I do. Is somebody will bring me idea, I'll map it out with them, and I'll get it done with them or for them at that point. So they don't need to worry about it. And that they have somebody who is so deeply involved in the idea of legacy and getting involved in theirs and wants to see those kinds of things grow in life. That's an incredible feeling. You have somebody that is so deeply intertwined in what you're trying to do, that they have the foresight to be able to see some of the things ahead and think in the same interest as you, not for your best interest necessarily, although those things are possible. A lot of times more with like family members or people that you know have the same values as you. But the idea of birds of a feather flock together really does come up here, where you do want to surround yourself with people that value the same things as you. So you have the same values on integrity and responsibility in order to hold the whole car together, because you don't, for example, want to go faster than the car can maintain its structural integrity, its alignment. And then at the same time, if you are aligned on those values, it's much easier to trust and expand. If you are going to do something small or great, make sure to do it in a way that makes sense. And I've laid that out here in this video. So please like and subscribe. Please share it with other people. The stuff we share here is stuff I know works across the board? Or are there interviews with people that have done things that work across the board? And in fact, we're probably going to start doing more of that, of interviewing more and more people of deep legacy that have something to share. And I'll throw in as a little tidbit here that I just sat down with one of the toughest men in the country here in the US, a cowboy, a guy who's basically a saddlebag with eyes, to make a joke from City Slickers. He said to me, integrity is training somebody to be the right person in that moment. Whatever it is, it's a muscle memory, it's our beliefs, as Tony Robbins and other spiritualities talk about, a belief that causes us to act in a certain way. And if we can instill that in our kids or people around us, that is one of the greatest forms of legacy. Is that serving a God? Is that serving a mission? Is that serving something more tactical like your family or putting food on the table? Whatever the case is, really try to honor yourself by living up to the absolute best potential that you can. And then everybody else, if you do that in a moral way, in an honorable way, everybody else is better off. Again, like, subscribe, share this with other people. This stuff works. And that's the only thing that we're going to talk about on this channel. No fluff, no going after likes. Some downtime recently as an update on the channel. I just needed to figure out what I was going to talk about that I felt 100% good about across the board. And consistency is great and the discipline is there. That's awesome. However, if I'm ever concerned that things aren't in integrity, the whole process needs to pause or to realign, like we've just talked about. So this channel is a feeling of legacy, has a feeling of legacy for me. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about here. So be well. And I hope all of you are doing amazing things with amazing people and you find the best results you can. And even when you don't think that is, I'd recommend you check out a poem called If. And it starts out with, if you can keep your head when all around you lose theirs, just go check that out. I think you'll really love this. It may blow you away. Or you might not be surprised at the same time that other people going back even into ancient cultures have known what you're going through. You have different problems to solve that they couldn't even fathom. So there's your honor. That's what your time is all about. What the next time will be all about, we don't know. But this is our time. Let's make the best of it.